and Jenkins, how is it that you keep getting denied for a house or some kind of living situation or an apartment? Stephanie Jenkins posted this on Facebook and she was like, another denial. What is your stable income? How do you think you're going to qualify for an apartment? First of all, you keep posting things on how you're looking for a house or an apartment online. You don't think they're going to watch that? You're known all over TikTok for struggling and not being able to like pay your rent and then also getting evicted. Baby, what are you doing? Why do you think it's okay for you to post things like that and then get all bent out of shape, bent over backwards, whatever you say, sideways from the Mississippi, that nobody is going to accept you for an apartment?
Stephanie Jenkins, better known on social media as the TikTok mom, is spiraling. And not just figuratively. Her once polished online presence has turned into a stream of frustration, defensiveness, and desperation. In one of her latest videos, she shared a pointed caption. Of course, our main priority is finding housing. Ridiculous to assume otherwise, honestly. But if housing was the true priority, why is she still getting rejected by homeowners across the board? These aren't just minor bumps in the road. These are huge, repetitive walls. Solid brick, not budging. And unfortunately, they are not without reason. Stephanie and her husband, Jenkins, are experiencing the fallout from years of bad decisions, and now they're facing homelessness. It's becoming painfully clear that finding a home isn't just about filling out applications, it's about fixing everything that came before. Let's get into it. Why is every landlord saying no? And what could the Jenkins family realistically do next? Recently, Stephanie posted on Facebook, "Another denial. This one really discouraged me. The place would have been so perfect for my family." That line hit hard, not just because of the words, but because it showed she genuinely didn't see it coming. The tone of her post wasn't just disappointment. It carried frustration, confusion, and even a hint of disbelief. It was as if she truly felt that this denial came out of nowhere. But anyone following their journey, it didn't. It was yet another predictable step in a long line of consequences. And that's where the problem begins. These denials aren't just happening in a vacuum. They are part of a long chain of issues that started years ago. Poor decisions, financial instability, oversharing personal messes online, and ignoring red flags. Stephanie and Drew didn't just fall into this situation. They walked into it slowly, one misstep at a time. What makes it so difficult to watch is how surprised Stephanie seems with each one, as if the world is conspiring against her rather than her own actions catching up to her. Her shock doesn't stem from injustice. It stems from not taking responsibility. She reacts like someone being blindsided when, in reality, the warnings have been flashing for years.
Oh no, Resilient Jenkins, how is it that you keep getting denied for a house or some kind of living situation or an apartment? Stephanie Jenkins posted this on Facebook and she was like, another denial. What is your stable income? How do you think you're going to qualify for an apartment? First of all, you keep posting things on how you're looking for a house or an apartment online. You don't think they're going to watch that? You're known all over TikTok for struggling and not being able to like pay your rent and then also getting evicted. Baby, what are you doing? Why do you think it's okay for you to post things like that and then get all bent out of shape, bent over backwards, whatever you say, sideways from the Mississippi, that nobody is going to accept you for an apartment? They're not going to take that chance on you. And sorry, just get a trailer, just get something that's more reasonable before you go and try to apply for an apartment. What is that thing that you can get? It's called a job. Get a job, or maybe Drew should get a job that is full-time, not just a little sprinkle here and there.
Landlords aren't guessing. They are doing background checks. They are Googling. They are looking at eviction records. They are seeing videos of trash-filled motel rooms and captions filled with passive-aggressive remarks. They are seeing her comments, her posts, and her behavior, and making decisions based on that. To them, this isn't just about judgment. It's about risk management. And when the risks are so clearly posted online, the decision is an easy no.
Another denial. I'm so sorry, Stephanie. I don't know what to say. Usually with majority of rentals, apartments, or condos, you have to make 3 times the rent. That's how it is in California. I don't know how it is in Portland. Just to give you an example, like my condo is $3,175 a month, and I have to make 3 times the rent. And it's just me. So maybe you might need to have a talk to King Daddy Drew, and maybe King Daddy Drew might need to go get another full-time job, or maybe you might need to work opposite shift of King Daddy Drew, and you can work during the daytime while King Daddy goes to work at nighttime part-time. But yeah, but also too, just letting you know, Stephanie, TikTok is not considered a source of income by some people, by some landlords. But also think too that you guys basically committed fraud by living in that low-income apartment with Drew, even though you're not supposed to be there. But I don't know what to tell you, girl. I'm sorry.
Stephanie chose to document everything, from moments of joy to messy realities. She put it all out there. Her motto seemed to be full of transparency, showing the highs and lows, from birthdays and family fun to tears, stress, and chaos in cramped motel rooms. In the beginning, this openness armed her sympathy, but over time, it shifted into something different. That same transparency that once brought attention and support is now creating serious consequences. Because now, it's not just her followers watching, landlords are too. Any landlord with internet access can quickly learn. She's been homeless since March, with months of documented motel stays. She's admitted on camera to being denied housing multiple times, sometimes back to back. Videos showed trash-filled motel rooms, cluttered with clothes, dishes, and spilled food. She and Drew don't have stable jobs, and they have avoided traditional employment for months. There is even talk of bankruptcy, shared openly in her own words. This is not the kind of information you want to front and center when applying for housing. While social media can be a useful tool, in this case, it's acting more like a digital resume full of red flags. Posts that might seem harmless or real to viewers can come across as deeply irresponsible to property owners. And because Stephanie proudly shares her life in real time, often daily, landlords don't even need to dig. They don't have to reach out for references or request background checks. It's all there on her public pages. The evidence is visible, direct, and damning. Her content, indeed, to build an audience, is also unintentionally building a strong case for denial. The Jenkins family's housing crisis didn't start yesterday. This wasn't a case of sudden bad luck or an emergency that caught them off guard. It has been slowly unraveling over time, with warning signs stretching back far beyond what Stephanie has recently shared online. They were evicted from a one-bedroom apartment for not paying rent, a serious legal action that doesn't just happen overnight. The situation got so bad the landlord had to take them to court just to get them to vacate the property. Even after the eviction was finalized, the rent that had piled over time was never repaid. That kind of unresolved financial history follows tenants and becomes part of their rental record, which landlords can and do access. Following the eviction, things didn't improve. It's been over 5 months of motel hopping, with Stephanie frequently moving her family from one temporary shelter to the next. These motels usually enforce a strict 28-day limit, not out of cruelty, but to prevent residents from gaining legal rights as tenants, known as squatters' rights. So every month, they are forced to pack up, shuffle around, and start over in a new space. There is no stability, no roots, just constant motion. And this isn't a quiet or private struggle. Stephanie has documented every bit of it online, sometimes in real time. She has filmed herself crying in motel bedrooms, venting during late-night live streams, and expressing her emotional exhaustion. She also posted clips of check-ins, complaints about conditions, and even conflicts with staff. Every breakdown, every move, every detail has been shared. For viewers, this might come across as honest and raw, But for potential landlords, it's a red flag parade. When someone publicly displays a pattern of instability, missed payments, and repeated short term stays, it makes decision making easy. This kind of inconsistency, paired with public documentation, doesn't inspire confidence. It raises alarms, not just about financial reliability, but also about long term tenancy, responsibility, and what kind of renters they might be. So, while the Jenkins current struggle tugs at the heartstrings, especially with kids involved, landlords are looking at the full picture, and it's one that spells risk at every turn. Filthy living conditions. Let's talk about the cleanliness issue, or rather, the lack of it, because this goes far beyond the occasional mess or household clutter. What we are seeing in videos and testimonies paints a picture of a family that lives in near constant disarray. Footage from their past apartment showed cat droppings smeared into corners, moldy windows that looked like they hadn't been cleaned or maintained in years, and clutter everywhere, from clothes to food wrappers and more. The apartment looked less like a living space and more like a storage unit that had been overrun. It wasn't just untidy, it was borderline unlivable, especially for a family with young children. These images were disturbing, not because of judgment, but because of concern for health and hygiene. Fast forward to the motels. Stephanie frequently posts cleaning videos, sometimes even claiming to clean twice a day. But instead of showcasing order and care, these videos often capture piles of dirty laundry, messes on the floor, unwashed dishes sitting for days, and food scraps around the living area. Viewers have pointed out that she often mops walls while the floors remain visibly dirty. It sends the message that cleaning is more performative than practical, more for the camera than for the actual sanitation. One motel cleaner, tasked with repairing a room after the family's departure, was reportedly shocked at the level of filth left behind. They found trash scattered throughout the space, bathroom conditions that were called unhygienic, and overall damage that went beyond normal wear and tear. That kind of report doesn't just stay within motel walls, it circulates among property owners, especially in tight rental markets. This might seem harsh, but from a homeowner's perspective, it's a real concern. Property damage is expensive, and when potential tenants already have a public history of living in unsanitary conditions, it becomes a huge risk. No one wants their property trashed or left in ruin. And now that this history is immortalized online in Stephanie's own posts, landlords don't need to speculate. The internet trail doesn't lie, and what it reveals is likely scaring off more landlords than she realizes. No income, no confidence. Started working night shifts at Safeway. Does DoorDash during the day. Still behind on child support with payments reportedly long overdue. So even if Drew is technically earning money, much of that income is immediately redirected toward his legal financial obligations. He is playing catch up on debts he's owed for years, which means there is not much, if anything, left over to contribute towards monthly rent or savings. From a landlord's perspective, Drew's income doesn't represent disposable income that could reliably cover housing costs. It's money that's already spoken for, which doesn't help the application look any stronger. And let's not forget, for a long time, Drew didn't have a job at all. He only recently began working, and while it's recommendable that he's finally stepping into employment, part-time retail and gig economy work are not considered dependable sources of income for most property managers. These kinds of jobs fluctuate widely and they don't typically come with benefits, security, or proof of long-term stability. Stephanie has no regular job and no history of consistent employment. Relies solely on TikTok and social media for income. Hasn't shown proof of stable earnings such as 1099's pay stubs or deposits. Stephanie describes herself as a content creator, but so far She hasn't demonstrated that it is a viable source of income. Her following isn't large enough to suggest high engagement or regular ad revenue, and she hasn't disclosed any partnerships, sponsorships, or product that generate income. So while she might receive occasional payouts from platforms, those are unreliable and vary month to month. Landlords don't just want to know you have income, they want to see that it's consistent, variable, and legal. It's not enough to say, I make money online. They want documents, proof that income flows in predictably and is enough to cover monthly rent without delay. No one's renting to someone who says, don't worry, I'm building a following. That's not a paycheck, it's a gamble. And when there are hundreds of applicants with full time jobs and steady paychecks, a gamble just isn't good enough. 7 people, 3 rooms. The Jenkins family consists of 7 people, 2 adults and 5 young children. That's not just a big household, it's one that needs careful planning and ample space to ensure everyone has room to live, grow, and breathe. Realistically, they need a minimal 4 bedroom home, if not more. That would allow parents to have their own room and still leave enough space for the children to be divided appropriately by age or gender. But instead of seeking out properties that fit that need, Stephanie has publicly shared that she is looking at 3 bedroom properties and occasionally even smaller ones due to tight budget constraints. That approach raises immediate concerns. When a landlord hears 5 kids and sees an application for a smaller property, alarms go off. Not because of bias against big families, but because of practical logistics and liability. How will 7 people fit comfortably in that 3 bedroom unit without overcrowding? How will the wear and tear on the property be managed with so many occupants? It's not just about space, it's about safety, maintenance, and livability. Additionally, many rental properties come with occupancy limits based on square footage and number of bedrooms. These rules aren't optional, they are tied to legal codes and local housing regulations. If a landlord knowingly allows a family to exceed these limits, they could face legal action or be fined. Landlords must weigh not just the applicant's needs, but their own risk. There is also the issue of potential complaints from neighbors. It's been reported that the Jenkins were removed from their first motel due to noise, likely stemming from having several young children in a confined space. Landlords fear this kind of disturbance, especially in apartment like housing where thin walls and shared spaces amplify. This isn't about discriminating against big families. In fact, many landlords happily rent to families of all sizes. But it's about protecting the property, obeying the law, and maintaining peace for everyone in the building or neighborhood. From a landlord's view, cramming 7 people into a small rental simply doesn't make sense. And that's a major reason why the Jenkins are seeing closed doors before they even. The bankruptcy factor. Stephanie confirmed that she and Drew filed for bankruptcy, and not just privately, but in her own public post where she openly admitted that their financial history has become a major barrier in finding housing. This is a big deal in rental world. Bankruptcy isn't just a financial, it represents a complete breakdown of financial stability. It means missed payments that have been added up over time, legal proceedings that make everything official and trackable, poor credit scores that follow you on every rent application. For landlords, this screams risk. A bankruptcy filing shows that you weren't able to manage financial obligations in the past. And it leaves landlords wondering what would stop the same thing from happening again. They are not just lending you keys, they are trusting you with their property, trusting you to pay rent on time, maintaining the home, and not suddenly stop communicating when payments are. Bankruptcy chips away at the trust before you even get a chance. And once again, this isn't private, it's out there, part of Stephanie's digital story. She told her followers about it during one of her live streams, citing it's a key reason for their repeated rejections. And while that might be an honest, it also gives landlords one more reason to pass. When someone openly shares a financial collapse online, it becomes nearly impossible to convince future landlords that things will be different this time. Bankruptcy doesn't automatically make someone unworthy of housing, but when paired with everything else, evictions, unstable income, lack of employment, and public messiness, it becomes a tipping point. It's the kind of detail that seals a decision, especially when there are dozens of other applicants without the same financial baggage. Pattern of not paying. It's not just one thing, it's a pattern, a consistent, visible trail of not meeting financial obligations over and over again across every area of life. Didn't pay rent at their previous apartment, leading to court ordered eviction. Lost their car to repossession due to non payment. Let their storage unit get auctioned off because they refused to pay a small monthly fee. Admitted to not being able to save as little as $150 annually for their children's activities. Regularly complain about bills but have skipped basic payments such as utilities or subscriptions. Even now, they are not paying for their motel. It's shelter assisted, which means a third party program is footing the bill for their temporary housing. And while that ensures the kids have a roof over their heads, which is undeniably important, it also underscores the ongoing pattern. They are not directly financially responsible for their living situation. This pattern isn't just concerning, it's alarming. It suggests that if something isn't free or covered by someone else, it often goes unpaid. This raises a major red flag for landlords because it shows a clear history of avoidance of responsibility, avoidance of budgeting, avoidance of facing the consequences until forced. And so the question becomes not just how would they afford rent, but what proof is there that they are even willing to try? Without consistent effort, income, or payments in their past, it's incredibly difficult for anyone to trust they'll suddenly start once the lease is signed. Stephanie's husband's criminal history. Stephanie is still legally married to a registered SO. Some landlords might overlook that, others won't. Even if he doesn't live with them, being tied to someone with that background makes people nervous, especially families or communities with children. Some property owners have values they want to uphold, and knowing someone is connected to that kind of record is enough to turn down an application. Time for a reality check. Yes, the kids deserve better. Everyone agrees on that. And it's heartbreaking to see them caught in the middle of choices that were never theirs to make. But as long as Stephanie keeps painting herself as a victim, casting blame outward, and refusing to reflect inward, she's never going to fully grasp the real issue. The circumstances aren't just happening to her. They are the outcome of a long trail of decisions, many of which she broadcasted willingly. No one is punishing her out of spite or judgment. They are responding to facts, facts that she herself has provided. These aren't rumors or assumptions. These are real, documented patterns of eviction, unpaid bills, unstable income, and poor living conditions. And each time she posts another frustrated rant or defensive caption, she unintentionally adds more weight to the case against herself. She has created a digital scrapbook of red flags, one that's grown so large it practically hands landlords a reason to reject her without a second thought. And until that changes, until there is a true shift in behavior, accountability, and effort, no amount of Facebook venting, sympathy seeking, or social media storytelling is going to solve the problem. The solution won't come from the comment section. It has to start with her. Your thoughts? Let's be real. This is hard to watch. But do you think there is a way forward for the Jenkins? Should they stop sharing everything and start rebuilding quietly? Should they just admit they are not ready for traditional housing yet? Whatever your thoughts, drop them below and hit like or subscribe for more updates as this story unfolds.